The end of the world. Now that was a beautiful thing. Those lights drew eyes to the starry sky, swaths of pink, glows of green, wild golds kissing violets, so lovely, so gentle. In the cold, people stood to watch that mural in wonderment, too awed to see the earth was black. In that moment, the auroras were everything. How quiet it had become, how serene. A shame no one saw it then, that October 9th had been the end. When the magic no longer amused, all returned to their homes, to their cooling walls and dark halls. The morning would grant them their noise, they said, return their warmth and whirs. Power and light were life. So it had been, so it would always be. The blackout would not be forever. Morning refused them. They woke shivering, with every breath bringing more clouds to their day. It was not just toasters and televisions they'd lost. No, the pretty rivers were thirsty things, and they fed on chirps, trills, and shocks connected to the earth or apart from it. Wheels would not turn, lamps would not light. Nothing but wood worked, and nothing but fire could flicker. That their cars could not drive concerned them. That their generators would not groan seeded doubt in their minds. Was it everywhere? Was it everything? The wrong questions. Few had the right one on their lips. Was it always? No power meant no ports, no trucks, no trains. Their absence meant no food. No food bred hysteria. Shorter days made for longer nights when the wind came biting and the desperate prowled. To steal was to survive. To hoard became wise. There was no sharing while stomachs growled, and no laws without the power to enforce them. How free man became, free but untaught in his freedom, and so independence was frightening. Violence was the answer, a remedy for their fears, a path through their plight. The beauty of the end was fading. Winter's start saw streets aflame. Shots like fireworks sounded every day, pops high and low, some quick, others thunderous. How amused the rats must have been watching man scurry and hide. Death came in waves. The 9th took its share, swatting planes from the sky like a cat kills flies, making morticians of medics and coffins of cars. For those unfortunate folk, happenstance was their lives, no different than their ends. The second wave was loud and ugly. Panic made monsters of men, while hunger drove them mad. The cold was fierce. Snows were punishing. Many starved before winter could take them. Others died with full bellies and blue lips. And so the third wave had come, slow and quiet, bringing agony, then peace. Denver died with a whimper, buried in one great grave of still, pure white. The cruel and the cunning survived, as did the lucky, the slimy, the tactless. All else was food for crows. Surely the birds feasted that spring. By summer, man's comforts were burned, his creations slaughtered. He had been demeaned by his own progress, teased while tortured by time's quitted skills. Beneath the auroras the world tripled in size, made bigger by no means to control it. So unfamiliar with so big a place, most were lost, alone, and, worst of all, destitute. Man could not move but by walking, could not eat but by killing. Everyone was, in one night, made basic again. For when the Lord snapped his fingers, the devil took the stage. What tremendous music he made! 1. Judge leaned forward on the couch, letting his head and hands fall over his knees. A soft blue filtered through the blinds and striped the room with light. Morning already. When he rubbed his eyes, he saw red. Pops in his knees announced his standing, and the ache in his back begged he sit. Judge's breath plumed as he reached for his boots, which were speckled with dry mud and manure. A trail of footprints marched to the door, occasionally straying toward the kitchen or toilet. Bottles and loose papers overwhelmed the furniture. A bedroom sat dormant down the hall. Must stung his nose cool like winter, as if spring could not reach past his walls. In time, Judge's hat would warm his head, but for now the leather was brisk on his temples. There was no food in the cupboards, no water in the pipes, only chipped paint and empty cans. Such was his home. Judge grabbed his pistol from the floor and tucked it behind his belt. The cold black metal prickled his spine. He gave a passing glance to the glass on the floor, to the broken paintings and dented walls, and, adding more mud to the path, he collected his coat. Day had come. Another chance to tempt the devil. Dawn hadn't quite breached the horizon, but the mountains were already waking. The shoulders of Pike's Peak were shadowed in pine, its face aglow in granite and ice. Even on a clouded day, the summit basked in the illusion of sunshine. Judge hadn't picked this place, hadn't agreed to settle so close to the city, but he couldn't deny the view. The path from his porch wound toward the range, turning to dirt and grass at the settlement's border. The chain link was rusted in places, patched in others, and an eyesore to most. But it kept the bad at bay. Those who walked, anyway. Judge fumbled for a morning smoke. He would need more matches soon. Languid breaths warmed his lungs and eased the tension in his skull. He waited for the sun to rise behind him, for fire to ignite the mountain's peak. A deep orange flared over the summit, bleeding pink as the light blazed brighter. There was beauty in it, but the magpies made him stir. Flying rats, Judge considered them, God's laziest creation, mashed together and mischievous, stealing or shrieking, granting false luck or misfortune. Soberly, Judge watched the birds hop and scream. At the surly steps behind him, his ear twitched. He ground his teeth. So much for a moment's peace. "What do you want, Langley?" he asked, not turning from the western range. His throat itched as he spoke, making his voice sound harsh and unpleasant. "Law wants a word. Says it's urgent," said the fellow, tucking a long clump of black hair behind his ear. If a man could take the form of a beast, Joseph Langley would have been a weasel. A thin nose and sharp chin stretched his cheeks and muzzle, while his skinny frame, made all the smaller, drowned in wools, slithered through open doors. Hair tightly parted down the middle always made him look oily or slimy. "All right," Judge finished his smoke with a heavy drag, then flicked the butt at the magpies who fluttered and cursed him. "Lead the way." Frosted grass crackled under their boots as they trekked through suburbia. Judge's excuse for a house sagged at the edge, well away from the labyrinth's center and its picket fences. Every tall box of brick and wood looked uncannily like the other. Maybe a different color, or with 2 windows instead of 3, but the same regardless. Most folk still slept, their homes dark and silent, but a few panes blinked from the flicker of candles. The main road was like a dull blade, severing homes and gardens from the hodgepodge of everything else. Nearly every building had been gutted, repurposed from a gym or shop into a gunsmith, a bar, a butcher, a shoemaker, hell, why not another bar? Even the old fairway was home to hooves and stables. Only the clinic pretended to stay the same, though the equipment was tossed to make more room for cots, blood buckets, and bandages. Genesis was not a large town, almost 1,000 last anyone counted, but law made certain it carried the weight of the world on its shoulders. Such was his vision.